In Hollywood, faces are fortunes, and when the pursuit of perfection turns obsessive, beauty becomes a burden. These once celebrated actors chased youth, only to lose the very features that made them icons. From subtle tweaks gone wrong to full transformations that ended careers, these are the faces fame could not protect from the surgeon's knife. Courtney Cox. The star best known for Friends once represented effortless beauty in the 90s. Her lively expressions and sharp comedic timing made her one of television's most beloved faces. As she moved from sitcom fame to films and producing, the pressure to stay youthful intensified. Hollywood rarely forgives visible aging, especially for women who built their appeal on natural charm. In 2013, speculation about using fillers, laser treatments, and Botox began to emerge when she appeared puffy. At first, the changes were subtle, with smoother skin and higher cheeks. Over time, the enhancements accumulated, gradually replacing the features that made her so expressive. In 2023, she admitted that the pressure to compete with younger stars and constant industry scrutiny pushed her toward overcorrection. She described how small procedures added up until she could no longer recognize her reflection. She began to speak publicly about accepting age as part of life rather than something to erase. And while Courtney's story showed how fame can blur self-awareness, the next actress reveals what happens when the pressure to stay perfect consumes an entire identity. Melanie Griffith. The daughter of actress Tippi Hedren and a child of Hollywood glamour, she grew up surrounded by beauty, fame, and constant attention. Her breakout role in Working Girl made her one of the most adored faces of the late 1980s. She carried an aura of vulnerability mixed with confidence that audiences found magnetic. Yet as the years passed, that same spotlight turned into a mirror she could no longer escape. By 2012, Melanie's appearance began to change noticeably. Reports from stylists and colleagues suggested a long history of cosmetic enhancements that included lip fillers, facelifts, and chemical treatments. At first, these choices seemed like attempts to stay camera ready. Over time, however, the procedures accumulated, giving her face a pulled and uneven look that was far from her natural elegance. Melanie later revealed that the constant scrutiny and commentary made her realize how far she had gone. She admitted feeling hurt when she saw photos of herself and did not recognize the woman in them. She described the experience as a wake-up call. Determined to change, she stopped most procedures and let her natural aging show through. Her decision surprised many in the industry, where denial is more common than admission. And while Melanie found redemption through honesty, the next star faded from view as her transformation became too painful for the public eye. Lara Flynn Boyle. The actress who rose to fame through Twin Peaks and The Practice was once known for her sculpted cheekbones and sharp on-screen presence. In the 90s, she became a symbol of mysterious beauty, her face defined by poise and subtlety rather than glamour. Yet as her fame grew, so did the pressure to preserve her youth in an industry that treats aging like a flaw. Around 2012 and 2013, her altered appearance became visible. The woman once recognized for natural grace began showing signs of overuse of fillers, Botox, and possible reconstructive enhancements. Photographs revealed pronounced swelling around her cheeks, uneven lips, and a tightness that made expressions appear frozen. Reporters began framing her as another casualty of Hollywood's obsession with perfection. Her rare public appearances fueled speculation about health issues and surgical complications. Each photo became a headline. The industry that once celebrated her elegance now dissected every inch of her features. And while Lara's retreat from Hollywood came from scrutiny, the next story turns to a performer who faced the same judgment under a spotlight he could never escape. Carrot Top. The comedian famous for his fiery red hair and exaggerated stage persona became one of the most recognizable figures in American comedy during the 90s. Known for high-energy performances and prop-driven humor, he built a career on self-deprecation and spectacle. As the years passed and his Las Vegas residency grew, audiences noticed that his act was not the only thing transforming. By the mid-2000s, Scott's appearance had changed drastically. His once youthful face appeared swollen and immobile, his skin unusually taut, and his features far sharper than before. Public speculation swirled around possible cosmetic surgery, including cheek implants, fillers, and laser treatments. Though he consistently denied going under the knife, photos told a different story. The change was particularly striking because Carrot Top had built a brand around exaggeration and humor. The transformation seemed to blur the line between stage persona and real identity. Instead of being in control of his image, he became an example of how quickly it can escape control in a culture obsessed with appearances. And while comedy magnified Carrot Top's change, the next transformation belonged to an actress once admired for her natural simplicity, Daryl Hannah. The actress who captivated audiences in Splash and Blade Runner was once the embodiment of natural beauty. Her tall frame, soft features, and calm presence gave her an otherworldly quality that few actresses could match. In the 80s and 90s, she was celebrated as the kind of woman who did not need Hollywood's enhancements to command attention. By the early 2000s, Daryl's appearance had changed noticeably. Fans began to remark on puffiness in her cheeks, a stiff upper lip, and a loss of expression that felt foreign to her earlier roles. Speculation arose about the use of fillers and Botox, though she avoided confirming specifics. Paparazzi photos magnified every angle, and the internet framed her as another victim of Hollywood's perfection trap. The reaction took a toll on her reputation. Casting directors, once eager to work with her, hesitated. Rumors of insecurity and surgery followed her into interviews, where questions about her work were replaced with speculation about her face. In a quiet moment years later, she admitted to finding the scrutiny painful, calling it cruel that aging naturally or imperfectly had become unacceptable. And while Daryl's quiet withdrawal reflected resistance, the next case came from a legend whose search for youth became one of music's saddest regrets: Kenny Rogers. The country legend whose warm smile and gravel voice made him a global icon was once admired not only for his music, but for his kind, approachable presence. Songs like The Gambler and Lady made him a household name across generations. His charm rested in authenticity, a quality that made fans feel they truly knew him. Yet in his later years, that familiar face began to change in a way no one expected. He started getting those procedures in the 1980s, and in 2011, his appearance had shifted dramatically. His eyes, once soft and expressive, appeared pulled and uneven. The skin around them looked overly tightened, giving him a startled expression that no longer matched his gentle personality. Speculation mounted about multiple cosmetic surgeries, especially an eyelid lift that left lasting consequences. Kenny eventually admitted that he regretted the decision. In interviews, he explained that he had undergone cosmetic work to appear younger for his partner and fans, trusting the surgeon's advice. He confessed that the procedure had gone further than intended, tightening his skin so much that natural movement was lost. And while Kenny's openness made his story human, the next icon embraced her changes without apology, shaping her face into a brand that defied time itself: Cher. The singer and actress who has redefined pop culture for over 5 decades built her empire on transformation. Her voice, style, and reinvention kept her at the center of entertainment long after most of her peers faded. From her rise with Sonny Bono in the 1960s to her acting triumphs in Moonstruck, Cher became known for control over her image, her music, and her career. Cher started getting beauty procedures in the 1980s, and by the early 2010s, her appearance had become a frequent topic of conversation. While Cher rarely confirmed specific details, she never denied her use of cosmetic procedures, famously saying she did not see a reason to hide it. "If I want to put my tits on my back, it's nobody's business but my own," she once said with her characteristic humor. Her openness, however, did not stop the criticism. Each public appearance triggered speculation. Fans debated whether her skin looked too smooth for her age, whether her expressions had grown limited, or whether her agelessness had crossed into artificiality. The same boldness that once made her unstoppable now fueled scrutiny. Commentators wondered whether the queen of reinvention had gone too far. And while Cher's reinvention turned control into art, the next actor's subtle alterations left fans questioning what Hollywood demands even from its most respected men. Ray Liotta. The actor who delivered one of cinema's most iconic performances in Goodfellas was once admired for his sharp, masculine features and piercing blue eyes. His rugged look defined his roles, giving him the presence of a man who carried both charm and danger. Through the 90s and early 2000s, he was the face of intensity in Hollywood. Yet by the late 2010s, that familiar face had begun to change in a way that left fans unsettled. Soon people noticed swelling in his cheeks, a smoother complexion, and a loss of the rugged texture that once made him magnetic. The speculation was immediate. Surgeons who analyzed photos suggested the use of fillers, Botox, and possible facial tightening procedures. The changes softened his once fierce expression, but also made his features appear heavy and distorted. It was not extreme, but it was visible enough to alter how audiences perceived him. In the years before his death, he continued to work steadily, but the conversation around him often included remarks about his altered appearance. The fixation said more about the culture than about him. Fans remembered his earlier face as part of his legend, connecting it to the raw power of Goodfellas and Field of Dreams. The later version, though still recognizable, carried traces of pressure and fatigue that no camera could hide. And while Ray's silence reflected quiet discomfort, the next figure never hid hers, turning every change into another chapter of public chaos. Courtney Love, the frontwoman of Hole and widow of Kurt Cobain, built her image on rebellion. In the 90s, she embodied chaos, beauty, and anger in one person, defying every rule Hollywood and the music industry tried to impose. Her wild look and raw emotion made her a grunge icon. Yet as the years passed, the same defiance that made her magnetic began to show on her face in more ways than one. By the mid-2000s and 10s, Courtney's appearance had changed enough to spark constant speculation. Her lips looked overfilled, her cheeks rounder, her eyes slightly pulled. Some plastic surgeons who reviewed her public photos pointed to multiple procedures, including rhinoplasty, lip augmentation, and possible facial fat grafting. Each alteration chipped away at the reckless authenticity that once made her untouchable. Courtney never denied experimenting with her looks. In interviews, she admitted to getting work done, but insisted she was not obsessed. She called it maintenance, though many fans felt the transformation had gone beyond that. The woman who once mocked Hollywood vanity had joined the very culture she used to attack. It was a contradiction that fascinated and saddened people who had followed her journey from punk clubs to red carpets. And while Courtney's rebellion collided with vulnerability, the next transformation came from another rock icon who fought time with the same fury he once aimed at the world: Axl Rose. The frontman of Guns N' Roses was once the face of rebellion in rock music. His fiery performances, piercing eyes, and angular features made him a symbol of raw, untamed energy. During the late 1980s and early 90s, his presence defined an era. He did not look polished or restrained. He looked alive. By the early 2010s, fans noticed clear changes in his appearance. His cheeks appeared fuller, his jawline softer, and his once sharp eyes surrounded by tightened skin. Analysts speculated about cosmetic fillers, eyelid work, and facial contouring. The result was a face that seemed both familiar and foreign. The man who had once sneered at conformity now appeared to have submitted to it. Axl himself rarely addressed the subject. He had always been private, letting his performances speak for him. But in silence, the transformation spoke louder. The fearless performer who once defied every rule of the music industry had, perhaps unknowingly, followed one of its oldest ones. Do whatever it takes to stay young. Over time, the conversation shifted from criticism to reflection. Viewers began to recognize how intense fame can distort perception, how the pressure to maintain a familiar image can drive even the boldest artists toward artificial solutions. Axl Rose became an example of how rebellion can coexist with insecurity, how a man who once mocked vanity could still fall victim to it. Today, he continues to tour with Guns N' Roses, delivering the same power that built his legend. His voice remains unmistakable, though softened by time. The change in his face no longer overshadows his talent, but serves as a quiet reminder that even rock stars cannot escape the weight of their own myth. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our next upload. Every face in Hollywood tells a story, and these ones remind us that perfection always comes with a cost. See you in the next video.